Hi there, it's Kareem from Keeper's Nursery. I just wanted to make a short extra video. You might have seen the video I did where I tasted all these fruits. It was quite fun to do. Since I had everything here, it's quite fun to test different apples against other ones. So you can sort of take a little nibble of, let's say, Pitmaster pineapple, and you can sort of compare that to Herefordshire russet. It's quite a good way of actually testing different actual flavors of the apples, because you can almost just like shut your eyes, have a small little bite of one, have a small bite of the other one, and actually forget about what they look like. You can just have a very and you really work on the flavor rather than just the texture, which again, when you bite into an apple, the texture is a big deal, how juicy it is. You can really work out with your tongue how good they are, and you can keep going back and forth between the same ones. The reason I'm doing this video is because I was testing some of these seedling varieties. So this is seedling number 82. Again, it's not quite ripe yet, but I wanted to, so I would class this one as a sort of slightly intense aromatic apple, what we would call a sort of sweet sharp apple. So the sweet sharp apples that the other sweet sharp apples that I can use as a reference point for someone watching the video, because they'll obviously not tried seedling 82. They may have tried something like a Claygate pearmain before, or Carmine de Sonneville, or they might have tried Ashmead's Kernel. These are sort of the main, and I guess self-fertile Cox. These are sort of sweet sharp varieties. Holstein would be as well, but this one's a bit old now, it's lost its sort of powers. So I was trying some of Sweet Seedling 82 just now, and like this is just sort of my opinion, my honest opinion on it. So comparing that to a bit of I'll get a fresh cut of it. So this one is Carmine de Sonneville. So Carmine, if you watched the last video, I found to be a very, very nice, pleasant sweet flavor. There's a sort of sweet sharp flavor. So it's aromatic. It is definitely sharp and sweet at the same time. And if you compare that to this one, which is Ashmead's Kernel, so Ashmead's Kernel is more acidic. Like the flavour is interesting. The flavour is of the Ashmead's Kernel might be, I'd say, somewhere similar to like a kiwi. Sorry, there's some fluff in my eye. Somewhere on the same scale as like a kiwi, in that it's it is very similar to if someone was making a again, if someone was actually making one of those sort of green looking apple sweets, where it's got the intense apple flavour and it's quite acidic. That is what the Carmine, that's what Ashmead's Kernel's like, because it has got a very sort of distinct flavour to it, sort of, I'd say, very, very appley, but because it's sweet and sharp at the same time, it's enjoyable, but it's also slightly sharp. The Carmine, more floral, more Cox-like. This is definitely not very Cox-like, but this is more, if you tone it down and you get a more Cox-like flavour. The Claygate pearmain has a different sort of, again, slightly sweeter, not as intense, but it has a sort of after flavour of the sort of slightly nutty. So comparing those all to 82, has a slightly sweeter flavour than all of them. I guess you would say it's slightly honeyed, but it's not bad in any way. Honeyed sometimes can be like seen as a bad thing. It's got a very sort of nice sort of fruit twist to it. Like it's it's like a very it's like someone has manufactured a beverage like a cocktail or something. It's got that sweetness to it that you know you sort of crave. It's a nice sweetness to it, but it's also sort of intense and sweet and sharp. And I actually find it sort of, you know, slightly easier and nicer to eat than the other sweet sharp ones. I wouldn't put it in the same category as one of the sweet apples like a Norfolk Royal Russet, or actually I should compare it against Rubinet. Rubinet will be, so I think Rubinet's more mellow. I think this one's got more acidity. Cut a new. I'm only doing this video because it's interesting, but I think people would like that apple because it is. People sometimes think some apples will be a bit boring because they don't have the acidity. So I really like a Norfolk Royal Russet, but it doesn't have acidity. Freiburg doesn't have acidity, so some people will find that dull. This one has got acidity, but it also is sweet and aromatic. Let me try it with, compare it with Rubinola. No, Rubinola is just sweeter. This one's definitely like, it's got a bit of zing to it. It's like initially it's aromatic and floral and sweet, and then afterwards there's a slight sort of intense zing to it, which isn't, you know, it's not a problem at all. I like it, but the others don't have it. And you know, I'm just interested. And the thing is, apples will change throughout the season and the year, and the, you know, every year they're different, and this is like a snapshot in time. See, that has got a bit of. This is the. You don't know what I'm talking about. This is the Herefordshire Russet. That one has got a bit of zing to it and flavour. Maybe it's on the same sort of. Yeah, I'd say it's in a similar par to a Herefordshire Russet, which has a lovely aroma to it, but also some intense sort of acidic flavour to it as well afterwards with the sweetness. But it's also got that nutty russet flavour. And then if I try 82, it doesn't have the nutty flavour, but it, I wouldn't say it's better, but it's definitely not worse. It's sort of similar levels. So just for reference, if you ever see Seedling 82, and I'll come up with a name for it one day and all that, I'd say it's a similar levels to a Herefordshire Russet, and this is all just me just doing this today. I haven't sort of pre-planned any of this, but it's similar levels of sweetness and acidity to this. The aroma is slightly different. This has got a sort of nutty russet flavour to it. So if you like that, I mean, that's similar-ish to Egremont Russet. This goes a different way. This is more of a floral. I'd say in some ways better, but you know, some of the nutty russet flavour is also extremely good. I do like it a lot as well. But it's interesting that one where it sort of sits. So I'm just doing this as a reference because you might only know one or two of these apples, and I can't really compare everything to everything. That would take a lot of time, but you're gonna have to try more apples. But definitely something new. I can sort of line it up maybe with this one. That's Cheerful Gold, because that's quite a balanced, intense flavour. No, this is definitely sweeter and more aromatic than Cheerful Gold. It's very strange, like trying to describe a new apple. I know, Mr. Crow, it is strange. And that's it's sweeter than a Claygate Pearmain. I'm not going to bother with Holstein today, but similar-ish to a Holstein when it's ripe. And much more flavour than a Golden Hills. The Golden Hills initially has sweetness and aroma, but then nothing. This is weird stuff I don't think about usually when I eat an apple. Yeah, a lot more of everything than a Shenandoah. Well, I do really like Shenandoah, it's just a lot more. Yeah, a lot more acidity and after flavour than a Freiburg. Yeah, much more than a Norfolk Royal Russet. Yeah, and sweeter and more aromatic than an Ashmead's Kernel. This one, I just say it again, the Captain Kidd. It's weird if you take a nibble and then you take a second nibble. The first nibble, you suddenly get the bouquet of the pear drops. By the second nibble, it's gone because you've almost like the smell's already in there. If you leave it a minute, you come back to it, it's right back again. It's pretty cool. You sort of, I suppose it's like when you eat too much of the same thing, it's like you're not as surprised, but once you've refreshed your palate, you go back into there. Oh, it's good. Yeah, so I'm still talking about 82. Much sharper. This Egremont Russet's very nice. It's very sweet right now, and it's sharper than a Rubinola. I will be interested to find out what the other parent is. I suspect because of the like tall oblong conical shape, it will be something like a Golden Delicious or one of the umpteen. Because I mean, we've got loads of varieties in the nursery. It'll be any of them, but so many will have a bit of Golden Delicious in, like let's say 5% or more. It just means there's a chance, but there's loads of stuff that doesn't, that won't have it in. Yeah, and anyway, I'll also talk about, so 27 isn't quite ready yet. So I do believe that the sweetness will intensify with 27. So I'm not going to bother trying to sort of match it up with something. 27 is promising. Pardon me. 24. So this is the interesting aromatic one, which I was saying was much like Captain Kidd and Kidd's Orange Red. So again, if you come back to it after a while, it has aroma, but I have to say, having eaten so many of those ones, with the apple that doesn't have the sweet sharp intensity in the aftertaste, if you lose that initial smell, the aroma, because the aroma, the flavour of this is all in the first part when you eat it. It's very, very, very sort of aromatic and sweet. It has got that sort of pear dropsy flavour to it as well. But then it's almost like if you had a cold and you couldn't smell that bit, but you could still use your tongue to taste it, would be quite a dull apple. I mean, it's not terrible, it's just, it's like once the juice goes, but you're still chewing, that second bit of chewing is pretty boring. With 82, sorry if this is really boring and technical, but I just thought I'd make the video. With 82, so the initial juice is very, very strong and nice to eat, you know, a lot of flavour, but the bit you chew afterwards, because of the acidity, actually, it still has something worth chewing. I don't know if you find that as well, let me know, but it is an interesting thing, because I don't usually do this when I eat apples, and you just bite them off the tree. And so the pear drop flavour is back again with Captain Kidd, but the after flavour has got a tiny bit of something. Yeah, I have to say the secondary part of eating the 24 isn't as good. You know, put down my own apple, but I don't think it is as good. Um, the classic one I was talking about earlier was this Claygate pearmain. It sort of doesn't peak and drop. It's all good. It's good it's better at the start with the juice, but beyond that, it is very good as well. Anyway, I don't know what else I can say about this. This is just quite um, an interesting thing to talk about. But I just wanted to give a reference. It was just a trial for me. I've written down some notes, but I think 82 is actually interesting because the idea of breeding apples, you don't really know what you after. You don't really know what you're going to get because you don't really know what's necessarily possible. You just want. I guess it's like when you have children, you just want a healthy, happy child, but you want it would be good if they sort of are exceptional in certain things, and that is worth having. A trait that's worth having. So a late season apple that's very nice and intense and tastes very good when everything else is waning. So I've mentioned already, most of these apples are at just past their best, and the level of flavour is starting to drop off. Something like 82 here will, has still got a month, half a month at least of. I picked all the fruit actually last year in mid-November, so it could have lasted a bit longer. I mean, it depends on how cold it gets, but if you're still tasting very, very refreshing and aromatic and intense in sort of mid to late November, that's very beneficial because there's not really much else to pick at that time with the same level of intensity. You can still pick Freiburg; it'll still be quite nice. You could still pick Pixie, that still has to improve. Stoma Pippin will be okay. But a lot of these other ones, yeah, and Cheerful Gold will still be nice actually. But a lot of the other ones, they're not going to taste as good. Bite them on the tree. There's the aroma's gone. Maybe a bit of it's become a bit softer. So I'm impressed with 82. But as I did with Hamid's Red Pippin, all aboard the hype train. But then the hype train runs out of fuel, and you get a sort of inconsistent crop, which will be disheartening for me, but it's a learning curve. But yeah, there's loads of spiders on there. They really want to build their webs between the apples for some reason. Not sure why. Okay, thank you very, very much for watching. Yeah, if you've got any thoughts about how to actually, taste the apples, it's not something I've ever done before, and I guess I will have to once it's sort of I'm part of the RHS fruit and veg and herb committee. I guess maybe I'll have to taste more apples properly and maybe be on sort of round tables and taste them properly. But yeah, you can sort of come at the same angle from different angles in the same apple. You can just eat it off the tree and that's it, or you can really sort of try really hard to taste it. But then again, if you usually just eat them off the tree out of your hand, maybe that's the way you should really grade the apples. But anyway, lots to think about. Thanks very much for watching this. If I get more than 5 views on this, I'll be chuffed. Thank you. Bye bye.